Your Life, the program you dare not miss. Brought to you by Crest, the toothpaste that means fewer cavities for all the family.
Look, Mom, no cavities.
And by Ivory Soap, advised by more doctors for baby skin and yours. And now here he is, Mr. This Is Your Life himself, Ralph Edwards.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's story is a tribute not just to one American, but to Americans who, under circumstances that outstrip imagination, challenge invention, refuse to be crushed by the cruelty and brutality of the communist machine. Our story is so powerful, some of you may be shocked. These lines, "Twice I was born, twice I have died," are part of a poem describing, in his own words, the life of tonight's principal subject. For he's not only a valiant Marine, but a poet. And most of his poems were written in a prison camp in North Korea. Now, he's been brought out to California and to NBC, so he thinks, to act as a consultant on a new film television series about prisoners of war. Now, he believes he's about to see the film being shot, and in a moment he should come through that. Here he comes now. Ah, Colonel Fritch, how are you?
Fine, Ralph. How are you?
Good. Good to see you. All right, good. Come on up and see. I'm just walking through.
Come up, Presenter. Ralph Edwards, I'd like to present Warrant Officer Felix McCool.
How do you do, sir? Kind of a sly grin around there. He looked at, the Marines have landed, and when they land, they want quick action, so I'll waste no time in saying that Felix McCool, indestructible Marine, poet, prisoner of war in 2 conflicts tonight, this is your life. Yourself an audience tonight. You know the program is your life? You see it, all right. Come on.
Looking for a girl named Marion.
What'd you say, Felix?
Looking for a girl named
Looking for a girl named Marion. That's your wife, huh? This is your life. She'll be here. Don't you worry. Our thanks to you for your help. Lieutenant Colonel Bob Fritch, Los Angeles Marine Corps representative for Armed Forces Information.
Glad to give you a hand, Ralph.
Thanks a lot. Like what?
Like a dream.
Like a dream. Well, I hope it isn't a nightmare. Let's take Felix, come along with me, will you, please, and tell us what is your job with the Marines now?
Well, at the present time, I'm teaching transportation in Marine Corps Supply School in Camp Lejeune.
Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, yes. Well, you're, something to do with traffic? What is the deal there?
Transportation.
Transportation, yes. Well, I kind of know the traffic on this stage a little better than you, so stand over here and look around. Will you? This is symbolic of a setting in which you spent nearly 3 years as a war prisoner of the Chinese Reds. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, your courage, philosophy, and outstanding character was an inspiration to many of your fellow prisoners. Come on here and face this wonderful audience here this evening, and turn around. Felix, old pal, you got to face up to it, boy. Here it is. This is mild compared to what you've been through. In a few moments, we'll tell of all of this and much more. Now, if you want to sit down and catch your breath there a minute, will you do that? In the meantime, here is Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter Marguerite Higgins' story in this ad in Current Reader's Digest. A story with this happy ending.
Mom! Oh, Mom! Look, Mom! No cavities! Oh, Jimmy, that's wonderful. The dentist says no new cavities this visit. I'm glad we changed to Crest toothpaste.
Today, happy scenes like this are taking place thanks to Crest, the toothpaste that stops soft spots from turning into cavities. For proof, let's visit the Midwestern town of Bloomington. Here, over a 4-year period, thousands of grown-ups and children took part in repeated tests on Crest, the most extensive testing program ever conducted on any toothpaste. The results? Well, X-rays and dental examinations showed Crest cut cavities almost in half compared with ordinary toothpaste. That's because Crest, with its special fluoride formula Fluorostan, stops soft spots from turning into cavities. Make Crest your family toothpaste, and you too may hear...
Oh, Mom! Look, Mom! No cavities!
And now let's go back to 1953 when you, Felix McCool, commissioned warrant officer, United States Marines, are a prisoner of war in a prison camp near Manchuria. You find relief in writing your thoughts in blank verse. On what did you write, Felix?
Well, anything I could find.
Rice
Little
paper?
scraps of paper. Sometimes the wall in the night. I'd hear somebody crying out, saying something.
These poems are later to be published in a book entitled Our Exile. One of your poems, called Remembered Sound, speaks of your earliest childhood memory. The soft sigh of a mother's prayer in the children's room. Your mother is Margaret. Your father, John William McCool. And you're born in Pahuska, Oklahoma. What was your father's occupation, Felix?
Well, he had a store in Pahuska. I used to go in once in a while.
He was police chief, too.
Yes, he was the chief of police there.
When were you born?
I was born in 1912.
Perhaps it's symbolic that you, who were to spend so much of your time defending Old Glory, are born on Flag Day. You're the only boy in your family. You have 5 sisters, and I see that you see 3 of them in our audience now. Mary, Cecilia, and Aileen. There you are, right up there. Hi, girl. Your sisters Antoinette in Oklahoma City and Patricia in Miami are proudly watching at their homes right now in that camp. When you're in the 10th grade, financial circumstances oblige you to leave school, go to work, although you resolve that someday you'll complete your education. In 1929, your father dies, and in 1934, you enlist in the Marines. What was your reason for this, Felix?
Well, possibly the singing Marine, maybe Dick Powell.
Going to see the movie, did it?
No, I wouldn't say that exactly, but...
kind of adventure.
Yes, I saw Marines in their uniform, and I heard something about an education program in 1934.
Yes.
And that the Marine Corps had to offer to the Marines, so...
This would enable you to...
Yes, I could possibly continue my education and then stop.
And having been so strongly surrounded by feminine influences in your family, you choose the most manly, toughest occupation you could imagine, that of being a career Marine. December 10, 1941, the Japanese attacked the Philippines. You're a sergeant with the 4th Marine Regiment at Bataan. Bataan falls in April. Under General Wainwright's command, your outfit pulls out and makes a last stand at Corregidor. What was your assignment there, Felix?
Well, I had to set up some guns on close to Monkey Point. It was on the north sector. RJ-10, RJ-14, along the airstrip. That's the North Point.
You're badly wounded.
Heavily.
Right? How were you wounded?
I was shot a few times. Hit in the back of the head, side, the leg, through here.
Your group had been given up for lost, had they not?
Yes, it was finished. I mean, the word was that you'll bleach your bones here. It was Captain Cass's word to me.
Early in May 1942, General Wainwright is forced to surrender.
You and I spent a lot of time together in a Japanese prison camp, Felix.
Yes, like you, Felix, a Marine in the 4th Regiment. He, too, fought at Bataan and Corregidor, now working for the Pinkerton Detective Agency in San Francisco. Here is James Pye. Say, you and Felix McCool were in the Cabanatuan prisoner of war camp in the Philippines, weren't you, Jim?
Yes, we were. And Felix, do you remember the Carabao herding detail, water buffalo you had?
I certainly do, Jim.
And you remember our assignment out on the beach digging sand and gravel?
Ralph Edwards joke, too. I remember one thing about Jim. When they tied him up, and he was hanging up there for quite a few hours. He didn't have any water. And they came up to him and just a little knife and running under his throat. So they was going to cut his throat. And they flicked the pistol against his head. And they asked him, what did he do? And he said, were you a boom, boom, boom? Jim said, no. He said, you Red Cross.
Remember the gravel detail? We were loading the sand and gravel from the beach on the carts, and you'd hide those smuggled items under the cart.
Yep.
You remember that extremely brave woman, the American nurse?
Yes.
Miss you.
Miss you, Margaret Utinski. I certainly
Yes,
do.
that you did so much for the prisoners, saving lives.
Now, although you've corresponded with Miss Yu, you've never actually met her. And
Not-
we think it's about time you two got together. Here she is, Miss Yu herself, Mrs. Margaret Utinski of Long Beach, California.
How are you after all these years?
How did you and Felix work together, Mrs. Utinski?
May I ask her one
Yes.
question? Did you ever give me a name? You remember what you named all those other people?
Would you talk a little louder?
I asked her if she gave me a name because she had names for quite a few of those people.
I
that
don't
smuggled that
remember,
stuff in.
Felix. I don't remember whether I had a particular name for you or not, but I have one now.
Well, you're going to have a lot of reminiscing after the show this evening. I can see that. How did you and Felix work together, Mrs. Utinski?
Well, I was working with the underground, as Mr. Ty said, and I managed to have money, medicine, and food hidden on the beach and behind clumps of trees. And when Felix would come out with the bull carts, he would find these things, pile them in the bull cart, cover it with sand, drive it into camp, and that was it.
For your heroism, Mrs. Utinski, in alleviating the suffering of American war prisoners like Felix McCool and James Ty, saving hundreds of lives, and as the leader of a group of guerrilla fighters in the Philippines, you were awarded in 1946 the Medal of Freedom by the President. Thank you, Mrs. Utinski. Now a well-known lecturer. You'll see Felix a little later. Thank you. In 1944, with our troops coming close to Manila, you, Felix, and you, James Ty, are removed to Japan. How, Jim?
They put us aboard a transport. There were 1,600 of us in a hold. Conditions were so bad that we called it a hell ship.
In Japan, your paths separate. Thank you, James Ty. In Japan, Felix, you're put to work in the Hanko coal mine in Futase City. You're supposed to help Japanese war production. Instead, you and your fellow prisoners become saboteurs. Now, could you describe some of the sabotage?
I might need some help.
Well, you lean against drills for one thing. Didn't you throw some rocks into the conveyor belt?
Well, one of the things they had the tracks came down and they had a switch in the middle, and we had these little hooks so with testing rock hammers, Taquito or Ibu. We'd hit the overhead to see whether the wall was going to fall in on us when it was back in after an explosion. But
Put false bottoms of
right,
timbers.
we put false bottom timber, and we also took the Tong King, which was the switch, because the switch of these cars coming down the grade in the mine, and when they would come down, they would crush into the side of the wall and pile up 8, 10, 15 cars in the mine.
Your captivity ends only with the finish of World War II in 1945. You've spent more than 3 years as a prisoner. Your decorations include 2 Purple Hearts. You receive a letter of commendation from President Harry Truman. 1947, you make warrant officer. You have, through education courses in the Marines, received your high school diploma and now take additional courses for college credit. 1949, your mother passes away. 1950, the Korean War. You and your brother Marines of the 1st Marine Division fight from the Naktong perimeter to the Chosan Reservoir, near the frozen, desolate wastes of Manchuria. And again, your luck runs out.
Felix, I was one of your senior officers in the convoy when we were attacked by the Chinese Reds.
Once again, you proved that you were a mighty good Marine, Felix.
We should all be grateful to you, Felix, for some of the fine things that you've done.
3 of your gallant comrades in arms, Felix, from Camp Pendleton, California, Lieutenant Colonel John N. McLaughlin and Major Ernest Richard Reed. And from Portland, Oregon, now a major in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve, Alan Lloyd. Will you please tell us what happened to the convoy that you were in, Colonel McLaughlin?
We had a mixed convoy of American Marines and soldiers and British Marine commandos. The Chinese succeeded in cutting the column by destroying a truck and were able to surround about 125 of it. And we were able to resist and to hold these people off till about 5 o'clock the next morning when our ammunition ran out. We had gotten quite a number of wounded in addition to our dead. And then in negotiating with the Chinese commander, he agreed to release certain of the wounded prisoners if we surrendered. And later on, we did find out that some of these wounded actually got out safely.
So all of you became captives of a terrible and new kind of enemy. But from within your prison, you fought back with characteristic American courage and humor, kidding and laughing even when things were blackest. Now, this we'll learn in a few moments. First, let's look at a working girl who knows she can come home and relax in her bathtub with the mildest soap afloat, Ivory.
Well, a working girl has to do her shopping just like everybody else. And this working girl knows a value when she sees one. Personal size ivory. She knows she can buy 4 cakes of personal size ivory for about the same price as 3 cakes of any other leading toilet soap. It's like getting an extra cake free. And she knows, too, that in the bathtub, ivory is the mildest soap afloat. It works itself into a lather to please you. Lather gentle enough for a baby's skin. She's ready to dress for a date feeling absolutely wonderful. Smart girl. Thrifty girl. Get personal size ivory for your bath. Buy 4 cakes and save.
Now back to This Is Your Life. Felix McCool, commissioned warrant officer, United States Marines, taken prisoner by the enemy in 2 wars. His spirit remained uncaptured. Now, let's get over here to Major Reed. Just before your convoy was forced to surrender in Korea, Major, what did Felix here do?
Well, Felix, you had a sack of confidential gear, and despite crossfires, you walked up the road and threw it on a burning truck. And remember later you had a
Good morning. Good morning, Jimmy.
Remember later you had a small piece of classified material on you, and you passed it among us, and we chewed it up, ate it, and compared to the food that they gave us, it tasted pretty good.
Wasn't the fact that Felix had been a prisoner of war before invaluable to his buddies, Major Reed?
It certainly was, Ralph. Felix advised us right away to pick up blankets or any other gear that we could find laying around, because he knew that the communists wouldn't give us anything like that. And his foresight, I'm sure, helped a lot of the prisoners to survive later on. And he gave up his own personal sleeping bag to a sick Army chaplain who afterwards died in that prison camp.
The day after the capture, the communists started marching you 25 to 30 miles a day in the freezing cold toward the first of several prison camps. Isn't that true, Alan Lloyd?
That's right, Ralph. They didn't give us very good food on the way, and a lot of the guys didn't want to eat it, and Felix, he knew what was going on. He told them, you better eat it if you want to keep up your strength. He said it's going to get a lot worse instead of getting better, and he was right.
He did quite a bit of morale boosting, too, didn't he?
Yes, he started a song fest of Christmas carols on Christmas Eve in 1950. Remember that, Felix? And he just made everybody feel a lot better.
In the straw.
Yeah,
February 1951, after being in 2 prisoner-of-war camps, you're all moved to your permanent camp on the Yalu River near Manchuria. Conditions are so ghastly that men die almost every day. Wasn't that so, Alan Lloyd?
Yes, the food wasn't too plentiful, so when somebody would die, why, we'd try to keep the communists from finding it out so we could have the benefit of that extra food ration for a little longer.
Now, you were the senior Marine officer in that camp, Colonel McLaughlin. How did the communists try to indoctrinate the men?
Well, in addition to the work that we had to do, they give us about 8 hours a day of classes propounding the theory that communism was superior to democracy. Of course, we all call that hogwash. However, their objective was to gain converts, if that were possible, to create distrust among the prisoners themselves, and also to make it more easy for them to handle us by breaking our morale.
You, Felix, helped keep up the morale of some of the prisoners with the poems you secretly write and pass around. Every poem holds a note of hope. You lift the spirits of some of those who lose faith, telling them you've been a prisoner before, and if you've lived through that experience, they could live through this.
They used to comment that they were good. I often doubted it.
They really meant it. They were good. Each of you finds a way to harass your captors, too. For instance, Felix, you did some harassing with live coals and a hibachi. Now, how was that?
Well, we had a few of them, they'd line us up to go down to these classes, and we'd get in a big gang up, and then we had little hibachis, or not hibachis, but stoves with coals in them, which is similar to hibachi. And we'd pick up I picked up some coals. I think other people might have done it too, and light off their coats in the back because they were loaded with cotton. Yeah. And by the time they got down to the classroom, there was smoke building up over there.
Your uncooperative attitude toward your captors, Felix, almost cost you your life.
I remember the day, Felix, when you were brought out of the hole.
A gallant Army doctor who was another fellow prisoner, Felix, here from Letterman Army Hospital in San Francisco is Major Clarence Anderson. Now, what was the hole, Dr. Anderson, that you spoke of, and why was Felix put there?
They wanted to break his spirit, Ralph. So for 80 hours, they kept him in the hole, which was a space about 4 feet square.
I'm glad you didn't say it.
This was located in a Korean village adjacent to the Korean latrine. And it was filled with rats and vermin. It was a filthy place. After 80 hours, when he didn't break, they let him out, and I took care of him as best I could.
The prisoners fight back with their offbeat, typically American sense of humor.
Remember the time that we had in Crazy Week, Felix?
Now, that's the voice of the officer whose humor was most upsetting to the communists. Here from the Helicopter Utility Squadron 2, Naval Air Station in Lakehurst, New Jersey, is Lieutenant Commander John Thornton. John, come over and stand by him, Felix. Your nickname in the camp was Rotorhead, Commander Thornton. Why was that?
That was because I wore a beanie with a propeller on top of it.
Well, just what was Crazy Week?
Crazy Week was a week that we were all we were supposed to go crazy, and one evening we were having our evening class in communism. I was supposed to be reciting my cognition on Karl Marx, and instead I was reciting Casey at the Bat. At that time, the Chinese Communist monitor came in, and he says, Thornton, come with me. His name was Quasimodo, and Friendly Prosecutor was another hatchet man, and we called him Friendly because every time he prosecuted somebody, he never lost a case. You were convicted. Yeah. So as he told me to come, I went over and I got my imaginary motorcycle. I kicked out the stand and I gunned her up and vibrated, put my beanie, and I was off. And we got to the camp commandant's house, and they talked for about a half hour, and after a half hour, they turned around to me and they said, Thornton, you have broken the camp rules and regulations. Motorcycles are not allowed in camp. They sent me back in Quasimodo, and anyway, they told me if they allowed me to have a motorcycle, I would try to escape on it. And besides, they didn't have enough motorcycles to give to all the other prisoners in camp, and they took it out and they broke it, and that was my motorcycle. And the imaginary motorcycle. And with the shenanigans, we actually drove 2 of them stark raving mad. Remember that?
September 1953, the Korean War is ended, and all of you are taken to Panmunjom and released. This time, Felix, you had spent 34 months as a captive. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel John N. McLaughlin, Major Ernest Richard Reed, Major Clarence Anderson, Lieutenant Commander John Thornton, and Marine Corps Reserve Officer Alan Lloyd. Each one of you a brave example to our youth, each one a story in himself. So, Felix, after 2 living deaths, you were reborn into a brighter future. Now, what has happened since Freedom Village, we will soon learn. First, let's watch a mysterious woman get rid of a problem, one you may like to get rid of, too.
And that is the end of waving lotion forever.
Pace is here. New Pace. Procter & Gamble's astonishing no lotion home permanent. Ends lotion mess forever. In this envelope lies the secret. The permanence in the papers. Yes, the end papers contain the waving ingredients. You do your Pace permanent the usual way. Except you don't use messy waving lotion. Plain, clear water releases the waving action. And because each paper contains just the right amount of waving ingredients, your Pace wave will be perfect. A lasting wave that leaves your hair so wonderfully soft and natural looking. And you, so beautiful. Get Pace, the astonishing new no-lotion permanent.
I wish we had time to tell you all the stories, ladies and gentlemen, I'm hearing here. The days of prison camps are over for Felix McCool, and a most important part of your bright future is your pretty wife, Marion, now a third-grade teacher in the Blue Creek School at Jacksonville, North Carolina. Come on, Marion, here's the pretty gal. Come on, come right over there and sit down. I don't know. He says, where is she, you know? You two were married November 21st, 1953, shortly after Felix's return from Korea, weren't you, Marion?
Yes, we were married then, but I met Felix when I was 7 years old.
Oh.
And then I met him again when I was 17.
Up in the tree.
Where?
I was in the tree.
Oh.
Yeah. But then in 1947, he started really noticing me, and our courtship began then. And finally, I got him to marry me in 1953.
You make a good Marine herself, sticking right through the situation. Well, to help Jim keep noticing you, Marion, Crest has for you this gold charm bracelet from Marshall's Jewelers, as Bob Warren has for you here. And Felix, you'll be wanting to take pictures of the gang at the party in your honor at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, where your out-of-town guests have been staying. So we have for you this Bell & Howell 16-millimeter camera and this sound projector. And you can also use that to show your film of tonight's show. Now, to bring us completely up to date, Felix, you're now collaborating with Mrs. Bernice Mason Winters of Burbank, California, on a book about your experiences. Good luck in this endeavor. We'll be looking for the book. One last surprise, Felix. We know that you and Marion share an old car. Now, you've had plenty of rough riding in the past. So, for smooth riding in the future, Crest has arranged with the Edsel division of the Ford Motor Company to present you with this beautiful 1959 Edsel Pacer battery. How about that? Just touch a button on the steering column there. Touch the button on the steering column. And you're on your way safely and fast. What's that? Commissioned Warrant Officer Felix McCool, warrior and poet. What you and your companions here underwent truly tried men's souls. That you and they emerged from this with undaunted spirit deserves the thanks and emulation of every American. This is your life. Good night and God bless. Out-of-town guests have flown to Hollywood via TWA's luxurious Jetstream, featuring exclusive siesta sleeper seats. Fly the finest. Fly TWA Jetstream service. This Is Your Life has been presented by Pace, the astonishing new no-lotion home permanent. The end papers contain the waving ingredients. And by Ivory Soap. 99 and 44 100% pure. It floats. There we go. Thank you very much, Bob Warren. I don't know what we would do without Bob on our program. He's very much a part of This Is Your Life. Thank you. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to transform our stage so that we can take you back through the years of a life that has touched many of us. It should be a most colorful show, and I know you'll not want to miss it. Until next week, good night. Thank you. This Is Your Life is a Ralph Edwards production.